Now, I think we have somebody special to you guys. You have somebody that's going to come on the show. Maybe Stephanie or Dave. You can introduce them or her.
Sure. Well, I guess I could start. We're going to have a former client of ours, Rachel. Rachel is a star client, and she's doing really, really well. And we're so excited for her to come on and kind of share. When I asked her if she wanted to come on the show, she hands down said yes, even though she wasn't feeling her, 100%. But I think that, the more we work with people, I get so excited when I hear people overcome these toxic relationships, and then I keep getting feedback as to where they are now. And so every time we hear back from Rachel, it's just like leveling up every single time we talk to her.
Wow. Well, let's bring her on because she had her own journey and you were instrumental of working with her through that. Hey, Rachel, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much.
Thank you. So you know these two guys over here, right?
Yes, I've known them for about 1.5 years now. I did start with their free website on Facebook, and then kind of realized that I was in an unhealthy relationship by reading over the materials out there, because as you both mentioned before, you don't always know that you're in an unhealthy relationship. You have to get some validation from outside sources. And so I, read through all the material, and their program looked like something that would really help me. So I joined, and it was a phenomenal transformation for me. I've tried everything that you can think of. Therapy, I've read so many books. I've done all these different programs, and it wasn't until I did Stephanie and David's work program that I really, truly transformed. And now, as you guys had talked about what a healthy relationship looks like, I had been in healthy relationships and I sabotaged them because I was bored and I wanted that excitement and the drama. And so that was one of the big things is Stephanie, I remember her telling me, when you're in a healthy relationship, there's not going to be these fireworks and, these ups and downs, and it's going to be calm and peaceful and happy. And that's true. I'm in one now, and I can definitely say there's no drama. It's so nice. It's calm. It's peaceful. It's what Stephanie described.
Was it hard? Was it hard for you at first to kind of look for help? I know you mentioned different modalities that you sought out, but was that hard for you? And then was it hard for you to connect with Stephanie and David initially?
Yes. So the hard part, I would say, is the embarrassment. As Stephanie said, I have a doctorate degree. I am very successful in my career, but I really didn't want to have that stigma of being somebody who was in an abusive relationship. So I was scared to reach out. And then when I first started the program with Stephanie and David, they treated pretty much like you have an addiction to your former person, your former partner. And they're very accountable. Each day you tell them, what your goal is. You have your green smoothie. By the way, Stephanie and David, I just bought a Vitamix at Costco few days ago. So I'm still doing 1.5 years later, still doing the green smoothie, but now it tastes much better with the new blender.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think her and him and the accountability and the group work that we all did together, really going back to my roots as a child and figuring out why I was attracted to these toxic relationships. I think that really helped, but it was tough. You're right.
And Stephanie, you call Rachel a star client of yours. What made the rapport at first challenging, or is it kind of normal how you treat each person? What was the connection you had with Rachel at first?
Well, talk about calmness. It's just kind of funny because my 3-year-old is deciding to play music right by. So if it's really loud sounding in the background, it's the uncalmness of having the 3-year-old.
I thought it was David grabbing a green smoothie.
That's why he popped off in the middle, because he was like, ah. But anyway, I think Rachel was I feel like easy, starting off because she was ready for change. I think one of the hardest things is I can't talk someone into being ready if they're not. And so when someone comes and they're eager and they're like, because that's how I felt when I first started my healing journey. I was like, I give up. I have no idea what I'm doing. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. And that was literally what Rachel did. Like, she came in, she's like, all right, tell me, I'll follow. And she followed exactly what we asked her to do. And that's why I say star client, because, I have some people that are like, well, I'm going to not really listen to you that much, or I'm going to do my own thing. And I have to remind them, like, how has that worked for you? So hasn't worked. So let's not do that anymore. Where with Rachel, it was just, following exactly what was asked of her. And, it was just phenomenal to watch throughout the program. But then afterwards, as well, as she's continued on, like you're still having your green smoothies. And, I think I remember at one point I said something to Rachel, because Rachel lives in a really beautiful location.
I know she doesn't live in New York, so I know that.
No. She was like, so one of the things I said to her was like, go out and find some fun activities to do. And I think there was some kind of like concern about not really finding anything. I said, well, create your own group, go for walks. And she's like, okay. And so like within a week, she had created her own like hiking group in her area. And she was doing hikes and making friends and meeting new people and getting it to explore the beautiful spot that she's in. Wow. So I thought that was perfect. I'm like, again, run with it. Like, here's the idea. And she's like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'll do it right now. And she did.
So Rachel, I appreciate your honesty here. When you were in healthy relationships and then in an unhealthy relationship, did you see the signs right away, or were you in denial about it, or they came up after the relationship was kind of established?
Yes, they came up after. So I've learned so much for identifying red flags in a relationship, because when I got in one, the first thing was all of this love, and they had this persona that made you think they were Prince Charming and the love of your life and they could do no wrong. And then slowly, very, very slowly, things would happen, a yell here or there, or just a look, or a criticism here and there. So yeah, it wasn't, I was with my ex for 5 years until I really was aware, of the abuse. So yeah, it did take a long time.
And what did you do immediately to, get away from that situation?
So there was some abuse with my stepchildren. So I had to get a restraining order, because I tried to have him leave and he wouldn't. So I had to get a restraining order, and that, pretty much saved everything, to get away and then not have to have any contact with him. That was the best for me.
And that's really hard for a lot of people, because I've now had to have several orders of protection in my life, against exes. And I think it's really uncomfortable and scary to do. Like, even just walking into the courthouse and say, I need an order of protection. And then, you have to be able to explain why you need it. So, trying to think like, okay, what happened? What did they actually do that I can put down on paper to give a reason why I'm scared for my safety? You can't just say, hey, I'm scared for my safety. They want to know why you're so afraid. And so even just that, like, I just felt kind of like dirty and like there was something wrong with me that I was even going for that purpose at all. But it's so important to really have that boundary, that hard boundary, that you're not joking. Like, this is serious. I now have the police involved. You cannot, move past this without going through the police.
Right. And going to a courthouse already is intimidating. And especially when you have that abusive situation, I could see probably Dave and Stephanie, you probably have clients that are afraid to even just go to report to the police or to go to the court to, make a restraining order or to address it. Would you say that's true?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think there's always, I have to remind everyone, if you're afraid for your safety, your children's safety, you don't mess around with that at all. It's important to get that documented. Even if you decide not to press charges, it's important to have every single thing documented. I mean, I still have a folder, that where it has all of the, when I wrote my book, I actually had to go through this folder, because you get so used to dealing with these abusive situations that it becomes so normal that you don't think about it anymore. So when I was going through doing my own research on my own experience, going through this folder, I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot that he did that. I didn't remember he did that either. And so to have it all written is important, to have that paper trail. God forbid something happens to you, but also just to protect yourself as well. And like in my case, I just remember even as I was going through, being like amazed at what I had suffered through.
And not only that, but one of the most insidious aspects of the abuser is their ability to undermine your self-empowerment. And you get to the point in a lot of cases where you don't feel that there are options, even when there are options out there, where you don't feel like you have the strength to go through that.
Or they say so often that you're making a big deal out of nothing. And Rachel's nodding her head. I mean, that's one of the things where it was like, he would tell me all the time that I was making a big deal out of nothing. And I would think to myself, but this feels like a really big deal. And then writing things down and then going for the order of protection. And they were like, he did what? Wait, what happened? And making it have somebody else have the reaction that I had at first, but for someone who was in a high rank, like a police officer, or someone who was even just a victim's advocate. I mean, I will never forget when I went with a victim's advocate and she said, okay, so tell me some of the things that he's done so that you can get an order of protection. And so I started going through them, and I casually said that on our wedding night, he strangled me, and the look of like horror on her face. And I was like, what? And she was like he could have killed you in a short period of time. Broken bones, bruises, things like that. That's terrible. But strangling, that's bad. And I had minimized it in my head. He had minimized it for so long that I just was kind of flippant about it because I was used to that kind of stuff.
This is Kick Unhealthy Relationships with the Curb. We're here every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. That's Dave and Stephanie and our special guest today, Rachel. We're just talking about your journey, Rachel. When did you have that moment where that burden was lifted? Can you share a little bit that feeling, if you remember where you were? So if there are other people out there, they can, try to get to that part of their life in their situation if they're in a domestic violence situation.
Yeah, so I really agree with Stephanie. Sometimes a protective order is really what's needed for you to feel safe. Because after I got that order, he did not come around anymore. And documentation is crucial. I had everything on video actually of the child abuse. So luckily I just was able to document all of that. And I also had a domestic abuse advocate that came into court with me. So I think I really had the aha moment probably a few weeks in with Stephanie and David's program. Everything just started to click, and I had, all these epiphanies and why I was still getting in these relationships. And just the support of her and David and the entire group. Everybody's kind of in the same boat in that group, and nobody's judging you. I loved that part. Stephanie and David tell you to be raw, to say what you need to say. And I think just getting everything out on the table, not being ashamed, that's what really helped me feel, I can do this. I can be in a healthy relationship. I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. Is really a few weeks into their program is when I felt safe.
Well. And Stephanie alluded to you're not feeling well, so we hope you feel better. But why was it important to come on the show today? I know that Stephanie and Dave, but is there another reason why you felt the need to kind of share your experience?
I am in the healthcare business, and I just want to help people too, just like you guys, and I think there are the more women I talk to and men, so many people that are affected by this, and they don't speak up and they don't do anything about it. And they just keep living life in that horrible situation, horrible conditions. And so I want people to know that there is a way out, and you can break, the cycle, and get in a healthy relationship, and all of that anxiety and stress and, the aging you so fast, all of that can go away, and you can just be happy.
Wow.
Can you tell us a little bit, like now you have the juxtaposition of having Carlos and having your past relationships. Can you tell us like what that how you feel just being in that relationship? And he's just a great guy. Everything I see, he just seems like such a great guy.
Yeah. So the love is completely different that I have for Carlos, my boyfriend. He's so caring and nurturing, and we have each other's back. That's something that's really new to me is, if I'm having a hard day or I'm sick, he'll help out with the house. He'll help out with my son, who's 3.5. Just the caring that we have for each other. It's not about the fights and the drama, and it's just that, he really cares about me and I really care about him, and we're happy, and we have like the same goals, and when we do have a disagreement about something, which is rare, we look at it as adults. We can actually talk to each other about the concern or issue, and there's none of that silent treatment. I hated the silent treatment. I got it all the time. So yeah, it's so just easy. Life is so much easier now.
Wow.
And can you share, I love one of the stories that you shared, where you had sent a message to him that you had to go somewhere and you had to go get your phone fixed. And I probably remember the story. And so you were without your phone for a little while, and then he sent a message and asked you, how did everything turn out or something like that? Can you share that a little bit? Because I think this is something that's so important. People don't realize like what kind of follows you into other relationships, but what a great response that was.
Yes. So with my ex, he expected me to text him every second and be on the phone with him every minute that he wasn't at the house. I had to be either texting him or on the phone with him every second. And so I was texting with my current boyfriend, and I got busy working and, didn't text him back for a while. And he sent me a message that said, "Is your phone broken?" And I thought he was being abusive because of my past relationships. It would have been abusive. And so I got triggered immediately, and I started going to extremes in my head of, oh gosh, this guy is exactly like my ex, and I can't believe he would say, "Is your phone broken?" How dare he say that to me? And just because I didn't text him back in 5 minutes. So I got in touch with my boyfriend and I talked to him about it, and he said, "No, I thought you said you were going to the Apple store. So I thought your Apple phone was actually broken." And so I was just checking in on you. And he felt so bad that I had that triggering moment that he actually came over and in person said, "Look, I would never say something like that with that intent." And yeah, so as Stephanie said, those things follow you. And the first year I was with him, it was tough. I had a lot of those pop up, and I had to reach out to Stephanie sometimes and say, "Am I being irrational?" And most of the time she would say, "Okay, well, let's look at the facts. What are the facts? What really happened here?" And then I would calm down and everything would be fine. And it was just my past PTSD coming in. So yeah.
Wow. Wow. I mean, thank you for sharing, Rachel. And I'm sure what you're talking about today is really resonating with so many people that are watching the show and will watch the replay, because it's important to hear from Stephanie and David, but also from somebody who went through a program that they have. That testimony you can't replicate. So thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank you so much. It was good talking with all of you.